To me, the path is steal one in New York and don't let the series get back to New York for a game 5.
100%.
Like, I think you could make it that you can talk about the stuff in between the lines. I think it's as simple as that. Like, if the Royals are going to win the series, it's got to be in 4. I don't know if them going back across country for a game 5, if you lose, especially if you lose game 4 with a chance to take the series, say that's the way that it all plays out. Do they have enough in the tank to be able to go in and steal it? That I don't know.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's up, y'all? This is One Royal Way here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield and Josh Keiser joining us. Jordan Foote cannot be here today. He apparently has the immune system of a small Victorian-era child, so he is trying to get that sorted out, but he'll be back for the post-game show on Saturday after Game 1 of the American League Division Series between the Kansas City Royals and the New York Yankees. Josh, my personality, I've just been fired up. Basically, since the Royals clinched a playoff berth, and I've just been riding that high the entire time. It has not come down. I'm sure that you are similar to where I'm at here on that.
Very much the same. After the final out there on Wednesday night, I finally felt like I took my first breath in about 48 hours. So it was good to breathe again. But then we're right back into the trenches and trying to break down this Yankees series against the team that is, very, very good. So the adrenaline is still flowing. I haven't taken my hat off since the stream on Tuesday, which has led to a lot of awkward situations in my normal day-to-day life. But at the same time, worth it. Always worth it, considering this Royals run is as magical as it's been in a long damn time.
If I had any hair left, it would be entirely gray at this point. And I aged probably 5 years in a 27-hour period between the start of Game 1 and the end of Game 2. 1-0 and 2-1 wins for the Royals. And now they get a date with the big bad New York Yankees, number 1 seed in the American League. First 2 games in the Bronx on Saturday and Monday, and then coming back to Kansas City, guaranteed a playoff game for the first time since Game 2 of the 2015 World Series, the Johnny Cueto complete game, if you recall. And then Game 4 and 5, if necessary. Hopefully they're able to keep this thing rolling and this isn't a clean sweep. Or they're popping champagne on Wednesday evening in the clubhouse, which would be just sweet. That would be incredible, and I'm hoping I can get out there for it. We're going to try to do a high-level breakdown here, just kind of look at this thing, kind of from the macro of how these teams break down strengths, weaknesses, and the path for them to win this series, both teams, and, of course, our predictions at the end. Before we get into that, Josh, I do want to mention, shout out and thank you to Emprise Bank, our partners in Possible, for sponsoring this show and so many other things at Kansas City Sports Network. We couldn't do this without their support, so thank you very much. Josh, before we kind of start getting into the nitty-gritty of this, do you have any kind of overall or overarching thoughts on the New York Yankees and where the Royals match up here? Just any overall thoughts on the series in general before we kind of dive in a little bit.
Yeah, I think there was a nice article, I think Annie retweeted it, but it was the MLB.com did a breakdown of who has the advantage in each position on the field. And I think it's going to boil down to the exact same thing that got us here, which is the starting pitching. If we can ride that, that is going to be the key, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they're going to have to also score some runs, because 3 runs in 2 games after the September that they had is not going to cut it against this team who, unlike Baltimore, who was struggling a little bit at the plate, the Bronx Bombers are not struggling seemingly in the least bit in this month of September. They had a very strong finish to the season, held off Baltimore to retain that the AL East title, but also held off Cleveland to retain that number 1 seed overall. So it is a very good team, and I think it's all going to come down to how the Royals pitching is going to come to.
Yeah, and if we want to go right into the strengths of this team, we'll start with the Royals and we'll move to the Yankees. For the Royals, it all comes down to the starting pitching. And you're going to get Michael Wacha in game 1, Cole Reagans in game 2, and Seth Lugo in game 3. I wondered how they were going to operate that, or if maybe they thought about Lugo, because I think that would be regular rest or close to it for Lugo on Monday.
I think
so.
Yep.
They could have gone there, but them going to Reagan's game 2 tells me they are hell-bent on stealing one of these games in New York. Like, they don't want to come back 2-0 and you're on the ropes right away. And the Yankees do struggle more against left-handed pitching. They're one of the best teams against righties. Michael Wacha does have some favorable matchups. And I don't take a ton of stock into the pitcher batter
career split
lifetime stats.
Yeah.
But 1 for 18 in his career, Aaron Judge against Michael Wacha is not nothing. But time score situation changes. Aaron Judge is probably is a much better player than when Michael Wacha faced him even a couple of years ago. So this is going to be where the Royals are going to be the most tested. Can the starting pitching keep them in these games? Because that's what it's going to have to be, because I just don't know what I'm going to get from the offense at this point. Maybe just winning a couple of these games is what it takes for the floodgates to open back and the offense to start humming a little bit. But given what we've seen over the sample the last month, even getting Vinny back, it has looked pretty dreadful at times. And the Royals are not going to be able to, as good as the starting pitching is, be able to rely on winning these games 2-0, 3-1, 4-2. Like, it's just, it's not going to be that way. This lineup is too good. There are too many talented bats in that lineup for them to be able to just try and scrape by like they did against Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of big.
Scrape by is too strong. They dominated them on the mound, but when you win it 1-0, 2-1, it's like you're holding on for dear life. You're not going to be able to do that against the Yankees.
And there are not many starting rotations out there that have 3 really, really good options like the Royals do in Lugo, in Reagans, and in Wacha. In Wacha, they're able to start the guy that not only has the most postseason experience in this rotation, which is huge compared to going into someone's house, especially in New York, and being able to have the experience to fall back on in the postseason to produce like you did in the regular season, which, oh, by the way, he had a better FIP than Garrett Cole. Yes, the Garrett Cole that everybody shudders to hear the name of. So it kind of favors them to be able to throw Wacha out there. And you did mention the past Aaron Judge line of 1 for 18 versus Wacha in his career. That entire lineup is a 667 OPS against Wacha in their careers, which, yes, you're right. And I totally agree with you about, putting a grain of salt on the caveat of them being, it just depends on where you're at. We saw last series that Paul DeYoung saw Corbin Burns really well, but he hasn't seen the ball at all. So they didn't see him at all in that series, and it didn't matter. And that's kind of where I'm at on this front. But at the same time, this Yankees lineup is very young. So they have only seen Michael Wacha recently, which there is way less of a grain of salt on that part as well. And the guy who has the most success against Michael Wacha right now is Anthony Rizzo, who will miss this series. That is big in and of itself as a lefty going against a righty that he's seen quite a bit. It is pretty massive for this rotation to not face Anthony Rizzo at any point. It doesn't matter like how he's done. We saw Cedric Mullins underachieve all year, and he was the only offense that Baltimore trotted out that last series. So it just kind of lines up to be one of those things. You also mentioned that the Yankees lineup does not hit left-handers very well. They have that weird off day between Saturday and Monday, Sunday being a weird off day, and they don't travel, so they're just off. That allows them to pitch Cole Reagans in Game 2 and then to turn around and potentially pitch a Game 5 as well, also in New York. So you're able to throw not only a lefty at a lineup that cannot hit lefties very well, but it's also Cole Reagans. Yes, 100%. And that is very a very good part, and it kind of adds to the strength of an already good rotation. Obviously, Seth Lugo is who he is. They got some guys that could do something with a guy repertoire like he is, but at the same time, you can't plan for Seth Lugo. You have to hope that he makes a mistake. The Orioles said it perfectly. Ryan O'Hearn was like, he has 9 pitches, 13 if you ask Seth Lugo. you have to wait for him to make a mistake before you can do anything against him. So you don't really get to plan on him. And so I think that just all of that really lines up in favor of the Royals rotation over this Yankees rotation.
I completely agree. What do you think are some other strengths of the Royals going into this series? Because I have one more that might shock some people, but I'll let you see if you have anything else here.
I mean, as far as the strengths go, the fact that Vinny Pasquantino is able to come back is huge. I want to see him hit 7 home runs into that short porch over the next 5 games. That would be fantastic. And a lot of the success, especially against a guy like Garrett Cole, a lot of that comes from the guys who are seeing Cole when he was with the Pirates in the NL Central coming up. So you can't really count on any of that. Cole's going to be Cole. If you're able to hit his cutter in the slider, which there are guys like Vinny, like Bobby, like Hunter Renfroe that can hit sliders and cutters really well. If you can get a mistake pitch from Garrett Cole, that's when you really take advantage. Otherwise, you're kind of just trying to survive against the fastball and the curve, right? Yeah, the curve is very, very good on Garrett Cole as well.
Yeah, like that straight down like spike curve.
Yeah. I mean, that's it is nastiness. Garrett Cole is still Garrett Cole, even if he is kind of underachieving and has not been super healthy this year. But at the same time, like the starting pitching is a strength. The bullpen is nails right now. I think that article gave New York the advantage in the bullpen area, and I think that's pretty. I mean, I understand they have a 3-headed monster in the back of the bullpen in New York, but this bullpen in Kansas City showed some stuff last. They showed some stones. They showed some, rising to the occasion. It was just very good to see. So if we're now talking about the bullpen being a strength of this team,
that's where I wanted to go. It's crazy, and we talked about it a little bit on the post game that if you had told Royals fans that in July, like, oh, by the way, you're going to win 2 one-run games in which your bullpen shoves, people would probably smacked you in the face and said you were crazy. But it's what we've seen, and they said it on the broadcast, and it's crazy. Now, some of this is due to some injury. But the only 2 guys from the opening day roster that are still in the bullpen are John Schreiber and Angel Zerpa.
I had to think about Zerpa. I wasn't real sure. I knew Schreiber's was
Zerpa. They gave him not early in spring training, which was pretty shocking to us. But, I mean, he's proven it over the last couple of outings since coming back from Omaha. Looks like a different pitcher. John Schreiber, throwing 95, is a different pitcher. Sam Long, doing what Sam Long has done all year. Chris Bubich doing what he's done since coming back from TJ, and Lucas Erceg locking down the ninth. Like they have found, after looking for it damn near all season, mixing and matching, trying to find the right mix, get to the back to just find somebody that can lock down the ninth. They got that. Mm-hmm. Then it was finding the bridge to Erceg. They had to do some workshopping there. And that last 3 weeks and basically almost all September, they found it. And it was some combination of Schreiber, Long, 6-7. Chris Bubich, 8th inning. Maybe the 7th if they needed Long for the 8th, whatever. But regardless, like your last 3 guys out of the bullpen are Sam Long, Chris Bubich, Lucas Erceg. Having a definitive bridge and back end of a bullpen that can go out and do a job is so infectious. And for these guys, it's not like the Royals were winning 8-0 and 7-3, where they had these comfy leads that they could go out there, throw strikes, pitch to some contact, and get out of the game. These guys were having to throw the highest of high leverage situations for some of these guys in their careers, not just an individual game. And they were getting swing and miss. They were getting strikeouts. They were inducing weak contact. That sort of thing to me, just as someone that played the game at a very much lower level, but when you play baseball, you know these things, that sort of thing is infectious and that stays in your mind, that positive mindset of, I've done this before. I've been here before. The Bronx is a different animal, but knowing that the Royals can go out there and Sam Long can get out there and get the 7th inning, and Chris Bubich can go out there against righties and get the 8th inning, and Lucas Erceg throwing some of the nastiest shit in baseball right now can lock down the 9th inning, it's absolutely massive. And bullpens matter in October more than any other time, and the fact that no time like the present, they've got it figured out in some capacity. And this is even without needing Michael Lorenzen or Brady Singer or some of these other guys at the back end, or they're kind of like the middle of Daniel Lynch. Didn't throw. Those dudes are still fresh that you can throw in a multi-inning scenario if you need it. But with the way the starting pitching's been, you almost don't. Those guys are just there break break glass in case of emergency instead of we need Daniel Lynch to give us 2 innings. Like it's kind of a worst case scenario thing almost.
Yeah. And I think it's a great thing to have as well. We talked about it with the last series preview was it's nice to have those options out there in Brady Singer and Mike Lorenzen and potentially Alec Marsh, but at the same time, it's even better that you don't need them and you can keep them fresh and keep them going just in case you need a big outing. You can give Michael Walker a short leash just in case he doesn't have it that day. It's a luxury to have that I don't think any of us saw coming in this capacity. I think we mentioned it multiple times that like moving Marsh and Singer and Lorenzen to the bullpen would help, but then also being able to count on Daniel Lynch and Angel Zerpa and Johnny Schreiber, that is massive and is also terrifying because they have shown us the capacity to look good for stretches and then just completely implode at the wrong time. So
that is totally fair. Like, I mean, that's some of that you could chalk up to just bullpen volatility, like those things.
100%.
Especially when you are a induced contact ground ball pitcher, sometimes when the BABIP gods are not in your favor, those are the types of things that happen. I will say this, though, with the above average to elite defense that the Royals play at nearly every position, you can sustain and you can handle those ground ball type pitchers a little bit more across the diamond for that reason. So again, that's kind of the mix and match of baseball. The weaknesses to me, it's really just what are you going to get from the lineup outside of Massey, Bobby, and Vinny. Salvi looked like a disaster at times in Baltimore.
He was a disaster.
Like it was auto swing, and he's an auto swing guy most of the time, but it was like you knew, okay, they're going to throw the slider in the other batter's box and he's going to flail at it, and he did. He's got to lock back in now. If you want to look at it this way, and I'd take a little more stock into this compared to individual pitchers, but Salvi in his career is very good in New York and against the Yankees. He's got like 16 home runs in his career against the Yankees. So maybe he's able to turn it on in the Bronx, and I know it was 10 years ago, but Salvi to me is still a guy that when the lights do shine the brightest, he's going to be able to come through. He did all those playoff runs as a young guy, as a savvy veteran now. I still feel like he's going to. I think, 10 years between playoff, 9 years between playoff at-bats, that's a long time, kind of getting back into the swing of it. But Bobby didn't look phased by the moment. Vinny didn't look phased by the moment. Massey held his own in the leadoff spot. It's what you're going to get from 5 through 9. What are they going to be able to do? Is Yuli Gurriel going to be able to turn it back on? Is Tommy Pham going to be able to do anything? Is Hunter Renfroe going to hit a big home run? Can Michael Garcia replicate what he did in Game 1, which wasn't anything flashy, but it was a single and a walk that led to a run. Like, that super low bar, but just can he get on, cause havoc on the base pass, and manufacture a run? If he can do those things, we're in much better shape. I don't know what you're going to get from MJ. I don't know what I'm going to get from Kyle Isbell. I know I'm going to get great defense from Isbell. That's fine. Like, that's why he's out there. And then the platoon situations, I just don't know. Like, there is so much unknown with the Royals. And like I said earlier, you can't expect to win these games 2-1 or 3-2 or 1-0. It's just not going to happen unless the Royals pitching is just so far and away better than what the Yankees are doing. And given that Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are in that lineup, I don't think that's going to be the case over a 5-game set. But we'll see. Like, they have to raise up a level, get a big hit, score, put some crooked numbers up, because I don't know. Like, you just can't expect to replicate what they did in Baltimore and win the series.
Yep, I 100% agree. It's the weakness is the obvious one, that is the offense. I don't have anything really else to add to the fact that, it's a struggle. I do agree that I think Salvi needs to especially step it up. And Rodon has pretty good numbers over top to bottom against this team. He shut him down. They only see him once, or they see him again in that second series?
They've seen him twice. And the first start in Kansas City was really good. It was not as good in the second start.
Yeah, okay. But it was still, Salvi loves to hit lefties, and I think lefties like Rodon are guys that he likes to see. You can't throw a batter's box slider the way that Salvi is going to swing at it from the left side, which isn't going to benefit him the most. So if there was one game that I had to pick a game where Salvi had to impact things, it would probably be that start against Rodon, to be honest with you. But I completely agree with everything you said. It's a weakness of the series, and they got to get it figured out because, like you said, it's not. They're going to have to score at least 4 runs a game, I think, to really feel good about how they are performing against this pitching staff.
We're going to talk about the Yankees' strengths and weaknesses right on the other side of this break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your number one source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, both on the audio platforms and on YouTube. Thank you to everybody for getting us over 500 subscribers on YouTube. I celebrated with a shot of Ben Holiday bourbon late on Wednesday night after the game. That was, I tweeted it out within 2 minutes. Somebody hit that 500 mark. So thank you for that. And if you want to get in on the conversation as well, go to the Mint Mobile hotline. Nick, if you could pop that up on screen, because I don't know the number by heart. 913-407-6524. If you have any thoughts or comments on either the Royals, Chiefs, or anything else at KCSN, you can go bother Tucker, who I believe has the Mint Mobile hotline, and join in on the conversation and send us in questions or anything. And if you do send a question, we'll be sure to let Tucker have Tucker let us know, and we'll answer it on the podcast. Josh, we put together a pretty extensive Excel sheet for Baltimore, and now we've done it for New York, showing strengths, weaknesses, stats against lefties and righties for hitters, this pitching scouting reports, showing, pitch usage and all sorts of stuff. Where do you want to start with the strengths of the New York Yankees? I know some go without saying, but where do you want to start?
I think we got to start where the obvious one. It's in the 2-3 spot for them, in Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. Obviously, two of the best hitters, and Judge is probably AL MVP. I think it might be pretty close to unanimous, despite some great seasons from Bobby Witt Jr. and Jose Ramirez. But Juan Soto is incredible at batting in front of Aaron Judge. It is insane how much production they get and the weight of the production that they get as an overall offense coming from their two hitters there. But they are undeniably at least top three hitters. They have two of them in the American League. So I think that is where you start and end with facing the New York Yankees. We talked about it in the beginning of the show. You can't pitch to them. I know Baltimore took a lot of heat for pitching to Bobby in big spots, and it's just undeniable that they can hit the dinger or get on base pretty much whenever they want to. So you need to stay on the fringes, on the margins, or come right at them. I don't want to pitch to them unless I have to, and if I have to, like you said, I'm just spinning stuff up there at them and hoping that it crosses the plate and doesn't get put in the seats. That's kind of where we are, because those two guys are two of the guys that we hope to contain. You can't stop them for the most part. So it starts and ends. Their strength comes from that spot in the lineup, and then the guys around them just have to fill in the gaps whenever they can, and that's how they produce their runs, which they do very, very well.
Yeah, I know we talked about on this podcast, so like, Little League homers, haha, stuff for Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is one of the best players I've ever seen. Like, I don't think that's for the size. You just start with the fact that he's 6'7", 270, and hits all these homers, and as athletic as he is, and plays center field. I know the Yankee Stadium's small, but that's crazy too. Slugged 700 over a full season. He's the first guy to do that since Bonds. Like, when you're in that type of rarefied air, like that, it's crazy. And Juan Soto is one of the best young players in the sport. It's crazy to talk about him as a young player, but he's 25. He's been in the league since he was 19 years old. He's going to go and get $500+ million this offseason from somebody, the Yankees or otherwise. And one of my favorite at-bats in baseball, because you know that it's an elite. I mean, if you have a 90 grade knowledge of the zone, that's what Juan Soto has.
Yep. And
you never know if he's going to hit a ball upper deck or he's going to work a 12-pitch at-bat and work a walk, because that's just what he does. It's making, I would rather, like, if Ben Rice goes up there after you walk Aaron Judge and he hits a 2-run bomb, you tip your cap. Like, okay, I did my, that is, and we'll talk about that a little more in weaknesses, but the bottom line is this lineup is ridiculous it's outside of Judd, and Gleyber Torres has actually been like sneaky good.
Yeah.
Leadoff guy. Since they put him in that leadoff spot. But Judge and Soto carry so much of this for them at an elite level that you can't let them beat you. And my God, they're really good. On the pitching side, the top guys in their bullpen are very intriguing because they're all heavy ground ball, fastball, changeup, sinker, changeup guys. Some combination of Luke Weaver, Tommy Kahnle, and Clay Holmes are going to be the guys that you see in the late innings for the Yankees. Luke Weaver doesn't throw a ton. Like he's got a little more velo than Kahnle and Holmes. And
he was hitting like 97, 98 when we went to New York there in the end of the year.
Yeah, he's hit a different gear out of the bullpen, and good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he had like a 5+ ERA for a couple of years and has kind of revitalized his career. So good for him. Strikeout rate at 30, much higher strikeout rate for a guy like Weaver. The run value on the fastball is really good for him. It's 8. A 2,
it's the best on that staff, I think.
Yeah, it's the best on the staff. Now, Garrett Cole didn't even throw 100 innings, so, over a full season, blah, blah, blah. But that's it there. The thing about Tommy Kahnle, and this is where it's either going to be advantageous for the Royals or an absolute disaster, because he throws his changeup. This team struggles to hit fastballs. Like, that's been a thing for quite a while. Tommy Kahnle throws his changeup 73% of the time. Yes, you heard that correctly. A 10 run value on the changeup. The fastball only 19%, but it's a -6 run value. So he is going to live and die by the combio. And if he hangs one, it gets, you have that. Guys for Kansas City that hit changeups well. Let me go here. Adam Frazier has a 6 run value. Michael Garcia, it's one of the few pitches he actually hits really well. Vinny Pasquantino, very good on the changeup. Salvador Perez, even, being a guy that chases a little bit, has some good, stuff against changeups. Bobby, it's the lowest of any run values. Hunter Renfroe as well. Hunter Renfroe doesn't hit velo very well, so it makes sense that he's pretty good against off speed. So
correct.
That could be a matchup to watch in the late innings that they bring in Kahnle. How they handle the changeup. Do they stay patient and try and wait for a fastball that he doesn't throw a lot, and it's not very good? And then Clay Holmes, kind of like just volatile, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like the slider sweeper combo for him is really good. He throws a sinker and it can get up into the upper 9s. But like I talked about on Wednesday on the postgame show, we talk about gas cans. This dude has been that pretty much all year. Like he has 30 saves, and that's awesome. I think he blew 12 or 13.
That's crazy.
And they kept throwing him out there. It seems like Aaron Boone is content to let Clay Holmes take the 9th inning. So I guess we'll see, are they able to get to him? And they already did earlier this year. The final game of the series in Kansas City, Drew Waters gets an infield single. Michael Garcia rips a slider down the line, and you win a ball game.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it just shows kind of the volatility of Clay Holmes. Mm-hmm. And I know, and I've listened to some podcasts. You listen to some, guys that are Yankee guys talk about it. Like, Garrett Cole's great, Rodon's great. Feel pretty good with Luis Gil, even though he kind of walks the world. Like, the stuff is so good. I'm terrified for the 9th inning. Is kind of the sentiment that I got, and it's kind of funny how that has kind of flipped. Again, kind of where Royals fans were at for most of the season. I'm terrified for the 9th inning. And now we're like, oh, okay, cool. Lucas Erceg's going in. That's great. Clay Holmes coming in, and guys are pulling out rosaries in Yankee Stadium just praying because they just don't know what you're going to get from him.
A lot of Catholic Italians, too.
Yeah, a lot. Oh, of course.
A lot of rosaries in there. A lot of white meters and some rosaries.
Absolutely. So I guess that kind of goes into the weakness a little bit. But I do think their bullpen and some of the starters, we talked about Rodon, Gil, the stuff is crazy for him. No. It's whether he's able to rein it in at all. That's a dude you have to be patient with because he will walk you. Like 100%, he will. I think he walked like 75 or 80 this year. Let me get the exact number, but I know like the strikeout number was really high, but it was a lot of free passes too. So he walked 77, which led the league.
12.1% walk rate.
Yeah, it's
that's a lot for a starter.
It's very, very volatile. It's near a 1.2 whip, for a guy with a 3.5 ERA. So obviously can do some damage control because he has the strikeout numbers, but if you get him a game, and he I believe is going to be the game 3 starter. Like they haven't, I don't think the Yankees have announced their roster yet, but I would assume that he is. And that'll be a road start for him. You're going to get Kaufman at full throat. Could be interesting, and first real playoff type scenario for him as well, I believe. Mm-hmm. So something.
And I'd wonder if they consider Marcus Stroman at that point. He's been at this situation before, but at the same time, his numbers are the worst in that staff. So I don't know if now the balls.
He has not had a very good year. But 4.62 FIP, not a lot of strikeouts. Average to slightly above average walk numbers, or below average walk numbers, I guess is the better way to put that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think, and against lefties, and some of these lefties are liable to go bridge for Kansas City. 5.12 FIP against lefties. So I don't know. Stroman feels like it's kind of like almost where they probably have Brady Singer, like break glass in case of emergency or game 4, probably. But that'll be interesting to watch. Do you have any other strengths, or do we want to go into the kind of the weakness really quick? Because honestly, it's as simple as, can the lineup outside of Judge do something?
Yeah, I think the only other thing, and I think it could be a big deal, is that the bullpen is especially built to induce soft ground balls. They have the second highest team ground ball percentage at 47.5% ground ball rate. And the Royals are a team that likes to put balls in play. They are not the type of team that will sit and work out for very often. So I think that could be a big problem. With them being such free swingers who like to be aggressive and hit balls whenever they can. Match that up with a bullpen that likes to induce ground balls and soft contact, and you can do exactly fall right into the hands of what New York's wanting to do in the bullpen, especially. So I think that's part of it. The other part is I think the most of it outside of Heel is very good against left-handed hitting. So guys like Vinny, guys like MJ Melendez, Massey, all these guys that we really need to step up to the plate and produce could have a hard time, especially against that rotation, but also in the bullpen as well. So there are some caveats there. That there's some specific matchups that will be incredibly important, not just the timing, but the matchups as well. So the other part about that, we talked about the Heel just being, the game 3 guy. It is a big deal as well. We talked about Anthony Rizzo being out. Nestor Cortez is also going to probably miss the series. He could come back later in the postseason if they're in it still. The fact that they're missing Nestor Cortez is a huge deal for the Royals, because if he is pitching in that staff in this series, I think that is a draw. There's no advantage to either side. Both of those top three starters are very, very good if Nestor Cortez is in there. So the fact that they're getting a guy that is unquestionable if he deserves to start in Heel or in Stroman or in Clark Schmidt, that the other guy, the fact that the third starter is questionable is huge, considering Nestor Cortez won't be there. So it is a very good staff, very good light up and down, and we're going to have to figure out what to do with a lot of those guys for sure.
Yeah. So looking at the Yankees lineup, and there's some recency to this, and shout out to you for having the foresight to look at the last 3 weeks of data for these hitters against the righties, and I'll pull up the lefty numbers as well. But if you look at the last 3 weeks for the Yankees, obviously Aaron Judge is incredible. So it slugged 800 of the last 3 weeks. Like, that's dumb.
It's pretty good.
But yeah, one might say. These are the OPS going down the line for some of these hitters that are going to be in the lineup and going to factor in for the Yankees in this series. If you want to look at more recent data, Austin Wells, who's their starting catcher, 246 OPS. I think he had like a 500 OPS something over the last 2 months. Giancarlo Stanton, a $188 with a 641 OPS and a 41% strikeout rate. Jazz Chisholm, 657 OPS, hitting 205, punching out a quarter of the time. Jason Dominguez, I don't know if they're even going to play him or if he's eligible, because he looked out of his depth coming back this year, hitting 206, 737 OPS, but striking out 30%. Anthony Volpe, 291 OPS with a 29% K rate. Jose Trevino, the backup catcher, he still gets time, 220 OPS with a 29% K rate. Oswaldo Cabrera striking out 31% of the time, small sample, but still. Trent Grisham, I think it's not a large sample, but again, a 333. Alex Verdugo, who they continue to run out there, 466 OPS, and that's all against righties. The lefty numbers
Yep.
for some of these guys, some of these guys, like it's not much better for some of these guys too. Like
just as bad,
Austin Wells, it's a 564, a 240. Stanton, I think Stanton. Obviously, the platoon is a lot more drastic. It's like an 1194 OPS against lefties, 245 OPS for Jazz, a 507 OPS for Jason Dominguez, 333 OPS for Alex Verdugo, Oswaldo Cabrera, 286. It's just make someone other than Juan Soto and Aaron Judge beat you. I know we've hammered that point, but it's so accurate. Like, if nobody's on and there's 2 outs, sure, pitch to Judge. But in most of these scenarios, I'm willing to roll the dice on pitching to Giancarlo Stanton with a righty, or let Cole Rankins just go after a Jazz Chisholm or a Jason Dominguez or a Ben Rice or one of these guys, and let them beat you. Don't let Juan Soto do it. Don't let Aaron Judge do it. And you give yourself a hell of a lot better chance. And continually walking a guy can absolutely wreck their timing for those situations where you do have to pitch to them. I still think back to a number of years ago when Bryce Harper got intentionally walked by the Cubs like 8 straight times, and it wrecked his timing in his season for like a month and a half after, because he wasn't seeing pitches. It was just up 4 and send him to first. It maybe not the strategy that a coaching staff wants here, because they are, especially a pitching coach, like, no, I want my guy to attack. But in a scenario where you're kind of outmatched in various areas, especially from an offensive perspective, you got to do whatever you can. Like this, it may feel like the Jimmy Garoppolo 8-pass game at the NFC Championship a couple of years ago, where it's like, I don't want to do it, but we won. Like, you probably don't want to see 3 walks on your stat line, and they're all 3 intentional walks to Judge. But hey, you get out of there and only give up 1 or 2 runs, and you don't let Aaron Judge beat you, you give yourself a hell of a lot better chance.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I'm 100% on that. You covered everything there very thoroughly. The other part of that is, I think their weakness is that their defense is pretty average at best. They have a pretty good left side of the infield in Volpe and Jazz. Both of those are pretty.
Jazz is pretty
solid. Their left side, but the right side being Gleyber Torres and I guess at this point it's Ben Rice. Their metrics are not very good. You can hit it to them and make things interesting at any point. If they're rocking out like Verdugo, Judge, and Soto in the outfield, they are susceptible out there as well. Their catching ratings have not been great either. So I think that is also the part of this where pitching staff, well, yes, they're built to induce ground ball percentage. The Royals are built to put balls in play. If you put it on the right side, things can get really, really interesting. You get more the higher fielding percent coming on the right side, you're more likely to make the play if it is, but it could still get interesting. So I think that defense overall is a weakness. And I know I was going to make the point when you were talking about Judge and how much of a freak he is. I wonder what his WAR would look like if he wasn't in center field, because his center field metrics are piss poor. They are not good. And that is playing in New Yankee Stadium, not Kauffman, which is an entire different ball game when you play in center field at Kauffman compared to New York. So I'm very curious to see what happens to Judge in the field when he does have to come to Kauffman and cover a lot of ground in that situation. So, yes, I think that their offense can be got. It's obviously very potent as well. They're one of the most disciplined teams in the major leagues. And if you can't get around that, you're going to want to put balls in play and just test the averageness of this defense. So I think that could be a weakness for sure.
One more thing to consider on the Yankees side, and it's something you could factor in because it's something the Royals do a lot and they're very good at: base running. The base running value metric on Fangraphs looks at base running runs above average, including stolen base and caught stealing. The Yankees are the worst base running team in baseball by a wide margin. -17 base running runs.
There's been some bad teams out there.
And but it's worth. But their
Orioles were also really bad.
They're like middle of the pack, but the Yankees are -17 in base running runs on Fangraphs. The next closest is the Angels at negative 14.2. So, like, it is a significant drop off. And the Royals are the seventh
Keep them
best.
in the yard.
Yeah, keep them in the yard. And the Royals are seventh best. So that could be the matchup advantage, and where we see the Royals continue to push the envelope, running on these guys and running on an Austin Wells. They had Austin Wells in a torture chamber in New York. I know the Royals lost the series. Like Bobby, Michael, Dairon, Hampson.
Massey was stealing bases.
Massey stole a base on Austin Wells. Force the issue, because that's how the Royals are going to have to scratch cross runs. It's manufacturing that way. It's a single, steal second, get into scoring position, and make stuff happen. That's what they're going to have to do. Get the extra base when you're able. Bobby gets on with a single and goes first to third on a Vinny knock to the right side. Something like that. That can be the difference in a game too. And it's those little things that allow the Royals to keep themselves in it and give themselves a path. Speaking of, Josh, if you had to boil it down to a few narrative type things, what is the path for the Royals to win this series and move on to the American League Championship Series and pull off the pretty significant upset in this?
Yeah. I kind of got it into 4 tiers here. We talked about you can't let Judge and stuff beat you. Obviously, if you have to pitch them, you cannot make the mistakes, but you do have the ability to kind of go at the rest of this lineup. If this lineup in general, the Yankees are 13th in zone whiff rate this year. So you can go at a lot of these guys and get whiffs and get harmless balls and get induced ground balls or induced soft contact. You can do that with the rest of these guys, but do not let Judge and Soto beat you. So the pitching needs to come to bat and do their job as well. The offense has to know how to hit sliders and cutters well. We talked about a lot of these guys that are very slider. They either throw a lot of sliders and cutters or they have really good sliders and cutters. They have to be able to hit those pitches well, especially against those starters like Cole, Rodon, and Heel. And then the last one, they have to take care of business at home. I think it's very low-hanging fruit to come out and say, they need to get a game in New York in order to bring the action back to Kauffman, which is true. It would be great if they stole a game, one of these first 2 games in New York. But at the same time, the New York Yankees are 50-31 on the road, 44-37 at home. If we really truly want to take a run at this series and really keep it from going back to New York for Game 5, they need to steal a game from the Yankees at home and then take care of business in Kansas City. And that's the big path that I see. If 3 out of 4 of those are met, or if all 4 of those are that, then the Royals are at a really good position to be able to take this series.
Yeah, to me, the path is steal 1 in New York and don't let the series get back to New York for a Game 5.
100%.
I think you could make it that you can talk about the stuff in between the lines. I think it's as simple as that. If the Royals are going to win the series, it's got to be in 4. I don't know if them going back across country for a Game 5, if you lose, especially if you lose Game 4 with a chance to take the series, say that's the way that it all plays out. Do they have enough in the tank to be able to go in and steal it? That I don't know. Now, Cole Reagan's possibly going in that Game 5 does change the math for me in that regard. But if they get 1, don't let the series get back to New York.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to talk about some of the stuff in between the lines, it comes down to give me 1 big inning to open the floodgates, especially in Game 1 if they're able off Garrett Cole. Give me a crooked number where you put up 3 runs in the 2nd or 3rd inning and let the offense breathe a little bit and let the pitching staff breathe a little. And they're not having to hold on to these 1-run leads. And if they're able to do that, then I think hitting is such an infectious thing. It can lead to kind of the offense turning a corner the rest of this series. Yeah. Someone other than Bobby Wood Jr. coming up with a big hit is another huge part of this as well. Vinny Pasquantino looked comfortable at the plate, has looked comfortable at the plate since coming back. I think it's only going to continue to get better despite playing with a busted thumb. If Salvi finds some of that playoff magic from 14-15, again, it lengthens the lineup a ton. And I think we see 1 big moment from him in New York. And we'll see. And then just the pitching staff just keep doing what they've been doing all year, especially on the starting staff. Keep, mitigate runs, get you into the 6th, and then bridge it to Lucas Erceg, and there's the formula. On the Yankees side, I think their path is a hell of a lot easier, and without as many caveats, it's just outslug the Royals. Like, force the Royals to score 6 runs or 7 runs in a game. And if they do that, I think you can take the wind out of their sails fast, especially if they're able to, in that Cole Reagan start, they shell him. That could mean disaster, and then you're really on the ropes in a game 3. This is kind of assuming that the Yankees win game 1, home field advantage, first playoff game. The Royals had a highly emotional series, even with a couple off days. Garrett Cole on the mound. I'm going to kind of give game 1 to the Yankees. It's a matter of, can Cole Reagans win game 2? And if they get to Reagans, he doesn't get out of the 5th, gives up 4 or 5. Man, the path narrows for the Royals significantly. And for the Yankees, you have a lot more ways to win a ball game. I don't know if the Royals have as many ways. And their path is much easier, in my opinion, because of their ability to pitch effectively and score a bunch of runs, because you have 2 of the best hitters in baseball going back-to-back in your lineup.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's definitely on that end. They have to get to those starters. Like, if they can turn the Royals' strength into weaknesses and get to them, it's the same effect that if the Royals go to Garrett Cole and take game 1 and get, open it up on him. It's going to have the same effect, and maybe probably even more so, because that's basically the only way the Royals are going to win this. We're not going to rely on the offense to carry this team as much as we are with the starting rotation. The Yankees are not relying on their rotation to win them ball games, because they do have 2 of the best hitters in the majors also to fall back on. So it's way more important for the Royals' strengths to really hit and to be the strengths and to carry them across this finish line. And if they aren't, then it's got to be a short series.
Yeah. Do you want to predict how you think this is going to play out? Who wins the series and in how many games?
I'm going to say we're going Captain Fade again. I had my best predictions were made when I was fading my happiness, and I'd rather be wrong happy than right and not happy. That's correct. Yeah. So I'm going to say the Yankees win this in 4 games. I think the Royals win 1 of the games at home. I'm going to say game 3, but they just can't quite keep up with the Yankees, in that way. So I would say the Yankees in 4.
I agree. I do have Yankees in 4. It is not an indictment on the Royals. What they've done this year is nothing short of amazing, and to get to this point, it's absolutely incredible. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Royals won it either. I think this plays out. Yeah, I'm not going to count this team out by any stretch of the imagination. I just think playoff experience that the Yankees have had, it allows the Royals to, it's just not going to be enough. But a springboard into next season. Now, if the Royals win, like I said, if the Royals win the series, it's going to be in 4. And what I'm really curious about, and this is something I meant to talk about in the past, but it escaped my brain, and now it came back. And it's something I talked about a little bit on Wednesday. How the Yankee Stadium crowd reacts if it's a tight ball game, or if the Royals take an early lead. That crowd is chaotic and is not afraid to boo the living crap out of their boys. Say it's a 3-1 game in the 6th, and Michael Wacha punches out Aaron Judge to end a threat. How do they handle the boos? They booed Aaron Judge when he was the MVP a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not going to affect him.
No, well,
it'll be like Austin Wells.
How does it affect the team, though? They've booed Aaron Judge. Yeah. They weren't afraid of it. They're going to do it. I do, and they've had so many chances in playoff futility, basically since the Obama administration, when they won their last World Series, the first term. How much of that creeps back into the mind, especially with since Aaron Boone has been the manager. And I think the fun part for the Royals in this is the Royals, whether they will not say it, and nor should they, because they expect to win the series given the mindset. So I'm speaking for myself. This team is playing with house money. They can play free, fast, and loose and go out there and just roll the ball out, play a ball game. 100% of the pressure is on the Yankees, because their path, the Houston Astros are gone, who have been their daddy in the playoffs for the last half decade or more. It's now the Guardians, the Tigers, and the Royals that stand between them and a division title, or and a pennant to get to the World Series. They have all of the pressure on them. How do they handle it? And the Royals can sit back and go, let's just go win a ball game. What do you say? Yep. It's like the power of friendship meme. Like, that's basically what the Royals have at this point. Like, and we'll see what happens. And you're going to have pretty much the whole country rooting for you because no one likes the Yankees.
No. Everybody loves an underdog.
Yes, and that's what the Royals
I heard a song today, Titanium by David Guetta, where it's like, I'm bulletproof, got nothing to lose, fire away. And that's the overgeneral theme of this postseason run for the Royals. Is like, there's nothing to lose for these boys. Everything is right in front of them. They can go get it. Go ahead and take your best shot, and we'll see where everything lands in the end. And that is a label and a thought and a fun postseason run that I can really get behind.
Absolutely. The Royals' first pitch for Game 1 of the American League Division Series is a 5:38 Central Time.
What is it military time? What is it military time, Joel?
17:38. It is destiny. It feels like destiny, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got to. 10 years later, amazing. 17:38 first pitch for the Royals. Michael Walker versus Garrett Cole, and we will be some combination of two of the three of us will be live on Saturday after the game is over to break down everything from Game 1 and get you ready for Game 2 on Monday, which is going to be one of the best sports days that this city has had, maybe ever. Between the Royals playing Game 2 in the Bronx, and then 30 minutes later, the Chiefs kick off Monday Night Football at Arrowhead against the New Orleans Saints. Going to be incredible. Sorry, Chiefs, you're going to get the computer setting. The Royals will be the big TV, the primary TV setting that night. But this is going to be a hell of a time. I'm excited. Like I said, we'll be live. Be sure to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. You'll get a push notification to your phone, and you'll be able to just pop right in and hang out with us in the chat as we talk about Game 1 of the ALDS. This has been awesome, and I appreciate you guys hanging out on the third episode this week. How many times? Fourth almost. I think, fourth. So This has been fantastic. Josh, thank you so much for hopping on. Jordan, feel better. I think we'll talk to you on Saturday, and we'll talk to the rest of you guys on Saturday night as well. Take care.